Hey guys, and this is Warhead Killer from the State of Decay modding group, and yeah, I'm gonna finally give this introduction to modding with State of Decay. Not really too in depth, but something to get you guys started. Definitely gonna show you guys some things that'll help you out with how to mod, and if you haven't already, join the group. We post things like every patch. We'll notify you what file has been changed, just like with the last one here. We'll let you know exactly which one has been modified, and as well as if you need any help with certain things, you can just ask there and someone will pick it up, either me or someone else. Alright, so if you haven't already, if you go to crydev.net, you'll have to download the free SDK, seeing as State of Decay does not have him on SDK yet. If it did, we wouldn't be having this discussion, we'd be on a different video. I'll recommend that everyone download the either 3.4.5 or below, all the way down to 3.3.9. I'm using 3.3.9 because everywhere I've looked inside the files, it seems to be referencing version 3.3.8. If you don't know what that means, it's just get it. You'll also need to register for a CryDev account. I already have one, and that's simple. Once you do that, there is a folder. And well, you'll download like a zip file, you'll extract it, you'll make something like this, and I'll just run through the file directory. Before I do that, however, if there are parts you want me to just skip over, like whatever, I'll have things in the description, basically timestamps and where you can just jump from thing to thing. Because some people don't want to know about file structure, some people don't want to know about basics with the UI or whatever. That's fine, I get that. I wouldn't want to sit through 2 hours of that either. So, without further ado, there are some things that State of Decay does not follow the standard, like, I guess, procedure for free SDK, so I'm just going to focus on the things that they do. Inside of the game, we have a couple of packs, right? And as far as that goes, it's pretty standard. Inside of, if I just actually extract all these, you can't do it like this, but I'll do it like this. And yeah, no. Inside of these, you'll find there are just multiple folders upon folders. Animations.pack obviously deals with character animations, item animations, things related to that. It holds kind of some pretty important stuff. GameData.pack will hold things like entity stuff, levels, what's like basic stuff. Libs, it'll handle a lot of the libraries, the database files. There's a lot of Lua files I think are in here, if I'm right. Mostly just stuff that you can edit inside of the engine. Materials, I'll actually jump on a whole section about materials. There are a lot of people who just think that MTL files are just either textures or just some, like, it's basically like an XML file, but they renamed it. And there's a whole graphical user interface for this. You don't even need to have to just edit in Notepad. And prefabs are basically stuff that is only useful if you have the editor. Music.pack, pretty self-explanatory. Nothing much there. Objects.pack, again, self-explanatory. There is just, you know, you have your CGFs or model files. MTLs are, of course, I've already explained this, material files. DDSs are texture files. You know, scripts.pack. This is actually where, of course, scripts are. If you want to edit like Lua's, which are basically like, yeah, scripting files. If you go in there, there's like little functions that the editor will sometimes reference to the C++ or just in-game. That's good too. There's not much there you can actually change. They'll affect state of decay. You'll actually have to go into their files. And textures.pack will be, of course, all the textures that aren't exactly corresponding to an object. So maybe sometimes they'll have their terrain textures in there or whatever. But enough of that. I've extracted them all now, so now I can edit them. So if you have a 64-bit operating system, and if you want to actually check if you do, you can go to, Start, Computer, Properties, and you should see it right here. System type, 64-bit operating system. And then you can actually go into bin 64. If you are running Windows 8, you cannot do this. There isn't just a bug that's always been plaguing this program about it. You'll have to work with bin 32 for now. Also your fault for going to Windows 8. But if we right, I already have the editor start up. So if you start up the editor, you'll have to log in with the CryEngine account that I told you about, and something should pop up. Oh, don't you love it when stuff works? I do. I love it a lot. I apologize for this. Okay. It's a shame. Yeah, so you'll go through all this little system. You'll log in. And then something like this will probably pop up. I click. Yeah, sure. Alright, so you have something like this, and this is basically like blank void. Nothing is loaded at all. You can kind of see that your frames per second usually never hits that high with anything. So we're going to go to new, and I'm going to go SOD test. And I'm going to turn this down, so because you don't need that much. We're not making an actual map, we're just looking at stuff. Doesn't matter. And while that just loads up, great stuff will happen. There we go. So now that we actually have a level loaded, and we have a blue ocean, it looks nice. It's kind of a bit foggy, but, we'll live. Oh, some stuff is actually messing up. Why? Oh. Okay, so I'll explain the UI. We have here is a nice what you see is what you play interface. It's pretty nice to control. You use WASD for the camera. You can scroll it out for the zoom. You can hold the scroll mouse button down, and you can kind of do this pan with the camera, and I like it. And yeah. Bottom down here, you'll have your X, Y, Z coordinates if you want to just move objects slightly. I don't think you'll use this, but who knows. This speed controls the speed of your camera, so if I set it to 10, I'll go wickedly fast. If I set it to 1, I'll kind of go kind of a normal speed. 0.1 is if you're wanting to get really close to an object and see. AI/physics, that button just means it'll just enable the AI and physics system, and you can preview how good the physics are if you want to see how your AI just moves around. You probably won't need this for State of Decay, but you might want to use it for maybe if you're trying to test if you can push a crate around, if you want to do something like that. No sync player probably won't use this. Go to position. Yeah, maybe. I don't use it. And the mute button, I'll just turn that on because you don't need to hear the sounds of nothing. Alright. Okay. So I'll actually go to the material editor right now because I bet that's just a huge thing. So if you go to view, open view pane, material editor, or if you're fancy, you can go over here and you can click the checkerboard sphere. And then you'll have this nice window pop up. And this is really nice. if you check this down, you'll have a bunch of materials folders, and then in there you can click, well, anything you really want, you can open up that, and then you have this massive kind of epic thing to play with. So you can change the shader. For standard materials, you'll probably use Illum, but for things like, you know, specialty stuff like vegetation, glass, obviously, you know, things that, you know, you wouldn't regularly use a regular thing for. Surface type, that references, it's more of just like for physics, the what do you call it, particle effects that play when you step on something. Like if dust kicks up, what will it look like? If you shot it, would it, you know, if you shot metal, would sparks fly out? Or if you shot wood, would wood chips fly out? Because it wouldn't make sense if you shot wood and sparks flew out. Like that would just be, that'd be mind-blowing. And then you can play around with the diffuse color. If you're already experienced with materials like in other programs, 3D modeling, UDK or something like that, this is different, obviously, because you're not playing around with nodes, you're playing around with just variables and shader generation params. Oh, they did have tessellation. Oh, cool. Alright. Alrighty. So, I'll actually set this up so you can actually see something, because I don't know about you, but the water in State of Decay was not pretty at all. Remove water. There we go. Now, let's just quickly go over here. Alright, so we now have a terrain. It's a checkerboard terrain. It's got even a bigger checkerboard. If I zoom all the way out. That just represents terrain, like an overall terrain texture. It's more of just a color palette. Whereas the thing on the ground is actually referenced as a detail texture. And you can actually see that here. This will represent the layer texture, and that will represent the material that it uses. And obviously, if you're making terrain textures and materials, you'll use terrain.layer rather than the other thing, because CryEngine, right? Yeah. Let's place down a brush, something that we can actually show and use and edit. I need something big. Where is something big? Fishes? No. Oh, structures. Of course. Why wouldn't I look there? Forest cabin. Okay. So if I'm going to go turn off global illumination right now, because it's kind of... Ooh, actually, I'll turn it back on. I'll play with the sun a bit. So yeah, you can play with the time of day. Yeah, okay. So now you have this cabin, and let's say you wanted to play around with the materials on it, but you're a noob, right? Yeah, we're all noobs. In that material editor that I showed you earlier, there is an objects thing. This is so much useful if you have a second screen like I do, but I can't show it to you. Okay, so if you go to objects and you go to where structures were in buildings and forest cabin, you can actually see all these. And you can actually start playing with the material with them. So obviously these represent the details, and if I were to turn those up, you should see very quickly on the other, to the right there, that I'm actually able to affect how bright they are. How much of that diffuse texture is being modified. Now I'll just show you what I just did there. If you hit Control G, or if you go up to game and switch to game, you'll actually go into this first-person shooter mode. This is actually just default for the FreeSDK. When you shoot, it'll make noise, but I, of course, muted it because noise is too boring for me. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to play something like that. And if you even wanted to test the scale for things, you hit F1, and you'll have a third-person character to play around with. And I think this is pretty much the same at like the same character height as the ones in State of Decay. I could be wrong, of course, but I don't think I am. I'm going to set this back to a darker color. It needs to make sense. It's not doing anything. Okay. I get it. You're angry. Alright. But yeah, you can totally play around with what you have here, because you can see like what textures they're using. Bump map, diffuse, specular, environment map, you know, all these different things. And there's actually so much more that I could really show. Like, I can go in the database here and I can just show you guys some textures for things. Smoke and fire. Let's go with that. Fuel tank, large. Bet. There we go. So you can even preview particle effects. This is obviously if you had something in the distance, because obviously up close this looks like it just doesn't look great. I guess I could explain the roll-up bar a little bit. I did kind of not ease into that. You know, really, I mean, all I could really say about the CryEngine is that if you play around with it enough, you'll understand what it's about, what you can do with it. I'm sure most of you are probably going to use this as sort of a visual reference, and the next video that I'll do will be showing you how to import custom meshes to really just play around with. All I've shown you today is really how to play around with the CryEngine itself, not so much related to State of Decay. And yeah, and I mean, next time I'll actually just fully get you guys into the whole groove of things. And it just crashed when I tried to go to high spec. All right, so that's how we end on that note. Of course, join the modding crew community. We're always there to help. We have the subreddit here. I am looking on here as well. I mean, I post up the patch notes with the links to file changes on here whenever I can. Upvote those if you want to. That's up to you. And there is the Undead Lab forums as well. I don't actually post on there myself, but I know that other modders do, and that's, you know, that's good. That's great. Now, the PC platform has always been great for just the moddability of games, and this game is definitely moddable if you put your mind to it. Like, there's a guy here who's done weapon mods, pirate sword, rolling pin, bowling pin, like great stuff. And then there's people here who are just trying to understand MTL files. And there's this guy here who is just awesome, really awesome. Alright, and I think this will conclude it for me. You know, if you have any questions relating to YouTube, I will only answer little minor questions on YouTube. All the huger, like, what does this do? That should be on the modding crew group. I want you to actually just go in there and post topics. Really, like, should be. That's where it should go. I read stuff on there every single time it's posted. I'm not, like, I get a notification, I always check them, literally. I even check them even if there's not. There's a lot of people who do this as well. And you can see by the replies, there's like almost every topic here has been replied to at least once. Only 2 of them. That's insane. That's dedication. Alright, I'm gonna let you go. See you guys.